Okay. All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. This is the 2023 Florida Moms Man Action Advocacy Day. My name is Wendy Malloy. I'm the co-leader for our chapter. This is Makiko Felice, my partner. We are so happy to finally be here in person. It's been a long 3 years of Zooming.
Yeah.
I think we recognize each other. Like, I keep looking at people like, you look sort of familiar.
In a square.
Without it in front of your face.
box.
So we're thrilled that everybody's made this trip. Thank you so much. So for today's program, before we head to the Capitol, we have a pretty packed agenda. I'm not going to run through it in the interest of time. It's in your packets. But I would like to take a moment right off before we start to acknowledge a few people. First of all, our community partners who've traveled to Tallahassee to be with us today. We'd love for you to stand up if you're with a community organization. We're grateful to have you here with us. I know you're out there. We're so grateful to have you here today and out there doing the work in our communities every single day. We'd also like to thank the Tallahassee First Presbyterian Church and our lifesaver, Pastor for graciously hosting us again this year. This is such a beautiful space, and we really appreciate your warm welcome and help with everything. I'm going to hand it over to Martin. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I'm a little bit nervous. As you can see, this is my first time standing in front of you. Thank you so much for coming. First, we'd like to ask Tallahassee moms to stand up.
Tallahassee moms?
Thank you.
For all of us, so we can have this day. So thank you so much. And please remember their faces when we go back to Capitol. If you have any questions, they can guide you to whatever you need to go. So thank you so much. Now, to kick us off, okay. Very last minute. We'd like to welcome for a few words Representative Daly and
I just want to thank you so much for coming up here. Representative Tallahassee and I fight every single day up here, and it gets a little lonely. And I can always count on Moms Man to be there and have our back. So thank you for always there.
Good morning, Mom. And I first of all want to say thank you. Please continue to engage your neighbors, your family members, your legislators, your local city commissioners. Permitless carry, or as I like to call it, untrained carry, does nothing to make our communities safer. Period. End of story. Removing the additional background check does not make our community safer. And guess who agrees with us?
Majority.
I just say this because I know things are sailing through, and that can get very disheartening. But Floridians are on the right side of humanity, we are on the right side of history, and we cannot and should not back down. Continue to engage, continue to do what you all do best. And I just want to thank you for not giving up on us. And for not giving up on us.
I just want to introduce Jennifer Weiser.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Jennifer Blyther. I am Florida's onboarding lead with Moms Demand Action. Preventing gun violence requires a coordinated effort. We want change in our communities and for our families as we work to prevent gun violence in our cities, in our counties, and in our states. We're here today because we want to make it known that we are not accepting permitless carry becoming a law. Gun violence impacts us every day, directly and indirectly. It extends beyond those who are wounded or killed. The families, communities, and anyone with a personal experience of gun violence are also survivors of gun violence. So let's have a moment of silence for those who have lost their lives to gun violence and for our survivors. Thank you. Now I will read our diversity, equity, and inclusion grounding statement. We'd like to begin by sharing our statement of intention and purpose. Our intention is to foster a robust presence of diversity, equity, and inclusion of and for all individuals and groups choosing to join our efforts. Our purpose is to work together to decrease gun violence and increase public safety across our nation. In our meetings, events, and activities, we value diversity. We advance equity. We demonstrate inclusion. We are a community. We are gun violence survivors, including victims and witnesses, change makers and advocates who come together in a partnership to work toward a future that is free from gun violence. Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Jay Belmont, and this is my partner. I'm Jamie. We're going to talk about the bill really quick. Things that you need to know. Don't be afraid to talk to your legislators. You know more than they do, and you're right.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Okay, so Jamie's going to go over the bill real quick. Oh, and you all know it eliminates and eviscerates the current permitting scheme for carrying firearms in public. There is currently training required prior to being able to carry a firearm wherever you want in public. No more. There are two bills, the House Bill 543, right, and Senate Bill 150. House Bill has already made it all the way through committee. It's ready to go to the House floor. So every House member needs to be spoken to. The Senate bill will be in the same spot, in 15 minutes probably when that committee meeting's over. It's going to be ready to go to Senate floor. Every senator needs to be spoken to. That's the bill.
Pretty much.
It takes away all of the safety training and the background check. The criminal background check is going to come up and going to say, oh, we have background checks in Florida. No, we don't. A quarter of the gun sales each year in Florida are through person-to-person sales. And when you have a person-to-person sale, a background check is not required. So those people will go on to carry in public without the criminal background check. So that's the crux of what's wrong. They're going to say to you that it's our constitutional Second Amendment right, and what your reply is that no upper court has ever found a permitting system to carry a gun in public concealed unconstitutional. It is perfectly consistent with the Constitution, and we stick by it. And it has been challenged. And you can quote Justice Scalia, who said there are limits to our constitutional rights, including the Second Amendment. Okay, so everybody should be clear on that, though we've talked about it forever. So one of the great things we did this year to commemorate or to honor the victims and survivors of gun violence is, you saw the flowers outside. I cut every one of those with these little hands. And when we put a flower garden out front, and it's 2,849 flowers.
Wow.
And that is one flower for each victim of gun violence last year in Florida. But remember, twice as many are shot and survive. We left some flowers here so that you could write the name of a survivor or a victim of gun violence so that you can take it to the Capitol and stick it in the ground. It's right next to where we're going to have pictures. I think it's a beautiful memorial, but it's also a very poignant one to the legislators that are walking by. Thank you all for being here. Oh, you do have a QR code on your
Folder.
packet. Or if you're not keen on QR codes, there is a URL also. So that will take you to the reporting form. After you're done today, we just want to know about every meeting, every drop-in, not just meetings with lawmakers, with their aides, everybody. We want to see that everyone has been visited. So please fill those out, by the end of the weekend. And you want to do one form per group or per visit. So it's 5 of you are meeting with a legislator, just have one person fill that form out. Anything else want to say? Okay, there's a sticker on the front. Sticker on the front. And a QR code, you just take a picture of it and it will pull up the website or pull up the form.
Thank you very much.
One per. And if you don't get it done today, it's fine. Do it on the bus on the way home. Just have it done in the next couple days so we can look back. It's also a feedback form. We want to know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong to make this easier. Thanks, everybody. Our goal is to make sure that everybody gives away their fact sheet today to somebody that doesn't know anything about this. Everybody has that.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Right here. Oh, I gotta say my turn. We have a
I'm
Republican.
excited to introduce Dad. Come on out.
We have.
State priorities and school future all together today.
We have a Republican today.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be
Palm
here
Beach
to
County.
share your complete tips with all of you.
This is where Republicans will
I
get
read
their
a tweet from a recent advocacy day in Missouri that really inspired me. The quote was, "Every time you advocate, tweet, or have that hard conversation, you are choosing community and choosing to be
Oh, he was
brave."
just on here.
That's so true. By sharing our stories and why we are part of this movement, we are making an impact and helping to end gun violence in our community. So here are some simple steps to share your story today. Take and share photos that show the diversity of our movement. Tell your story. Make sure you put your sample tweets in your own personal voice. Our authentic voices are really what set us apart and draw people into our movement. Tag at Mom's Command. Also add at every town if possible. You can always tag that in the photo to save characters. Be sure you include the Florida State Legislative hashtag FLAPOL and Moms Are Everywhere. And include your city. Tag the legislator you are meeting with if possible. And post on Instagram, Facebook, including in addition to Twitter. Share your story, but if you have a group member that wants to share it, that's fine too. And please put all your each other. If you have any questions, please message me on @BethRain on Twitter. @BethRain74, sorry. Sorry, I'm super nervous.
You're doing awesome, guys.
Good job, guys. Let's go.
Thank you everyone for all you do for this movement. I can't wait to see your advocacy day on Twitter and Instagram. Keep going.
Thank you. Thanks,
You're
Beth.
awesome. And we all know if it's not on Twitter,
You weren't even there. You're not even there.
Our next speaker is a volunteer leader from Students Demand Action. You likely have already seen her testifying fiercely and persuasively in a couple of committee hearings in the past couple of months. So please welcome Alexis Dorman.
I'm a sophomore at Florida State University, the president of College Democrats at FSU, and a volunteer with Students Demand Action. I'm so honored and excited to be speaking with all of you today and to be here surrounded by all this passion and energy as we work collectively to end gun violence in our state. I've been in Florida all my life. I was born and raised in Orlando, and I'm here today for the same reason that I've been at the Capitol rallying with my peers and testifying in bill hearings for the past few months. Because the Florida legislature continues to push through dangerous bills that will put Floridians of all ages, from all backgrounds, in harm's way. I am part of the generation that has been most affected by gun violence. In second grade, I made paper snowflakes for the students returning to Sandy Hook. In sixth grade, I woke up to the news that 49 people had died at Pulse nightclub, not even 30 minutes from my house. And in seventh grade, I sat in lockdown for more than 6 hours after a gunman shot and killed Police Lieutenant Deborah Clayton at a Walmart across the street from my school. Kids today are watching victims the same ages as them die of gun violence at restaurants, schools, concert venues, parks, shopping malls, neighborhood gatherings, sporting complexes, and worst of all, inside their own homes. So why aren't lawmakers doing anything? 5 years ago, our legislature chose to do the right thing in the face of tragedy, passing laws that work to protect my generation and all Floridians. Today, they're focusing on legislation that makes our state more dangerous and inequitable as they prioritize politics and profits over our lives. Permitless carry is reckless and extreme. It will only make it easier for people to carry guns without adequate training or a background check. Permitless carry has risen to the top of the gun industry's state priorities because it is critical to their business model. Concealed permitless carry means more weapons and more hands with less accountability, and none of us deserve to be left with trauma and grief in exchange for profit. There is nothing patriotic about lowering our standards. Just days ago, lawmakers introduced legislation to lower the age to buy a firearm from 21 to 18. This newly introduced bill is a slap in the face to the progress that was made 5 years ago. I think I can speak for us all when I say that a political stunt like this one is absolutely ridiculous, that we're angry, and that's something that we will not stand for. Gun violence is the #1 killer of children and teens in the United States. This is what my generation is facing. In addition to worrying about exams, making it to game nights with friends, and remembering to call our moms enough, folks my age have to worry about being the next victim of gun violence. We will not stand idly by. Students are demanding lawmakers take action and reject legislation like House Bill 543, permitless concealed carry, and 1543, minimum age to purchase a firearm. With bills like these, this year Florida has faced more extremism at the hands of DeSantis than I have ever seen before, and the governor's buddies in the Florida legislature representing our districts do not have the interests of us in mind. This legislature has pushed progress of actual firearm safety bills. But our lawmakers still have the opportunity to do the right thing. There are bills that fund community violence intervention programs and repeal shoot first laws. These initiatives are what our legislature should be focusing on. They're the laws that prioritize community safety and actually have constituent support. And we're here pushing to do just that. So with this in mind, we will continue funding Students and moms have testified, we've spoken to the press, and we have mobilized our peers to fight the good fight with us. We will not back down, and our efforts do not end here with this legislature. If there's anything that young people have learned over the course of this year so far, it is that we are the only ones who can and will advocate for our future, and allies are important. When students and moms stand together, we are stronger and more impactful. My generation is fired up and committed to long-term action alongside you all. As the largest and most diverse group of potential voters, we are unafraid to organize, show up in large numbers, and hold legislators accountable for their and you already know we'll be making our voices heard at the ballot box in 2024. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Alexi. One more time. We are so grateful for all the work the students are doing. They are our future, and we have to fight for them as well.
I'm gonna follow that.
Next, I'm thrilled to introduce Dominic Rodas, dear friend of our Be Smart, Lady Katie Hathaway. I just wanted to thank you for coming here today. He's a fierce advocate seeking justice for his son DJ, and we stand with you and Dominic and your son DJ. Please welcome him.
Good morning, fellow advocates. Good morning. My name is Dominic Broadus. My son had the same name, Dominic Jerome Broadus II. My son's story, like a lot of family stories we hear about in the country today, is faced with gun violence. Like Alexis said, we have traumatized a whole generation of children because we refuse to take action with mass shootings. And now they're occurring more often than we have days per year. You know, I don't like giving up the talk, but whenever I'm asked to talk about my son, I always say yes. I say yes because my son's story is not finished. It still has a story to tell. I speak because the execution of my son left my grandson fatherless. I do it because the same laws that protected the execution of my son are still in existence today. And those laws, they continue to expose non-whites to the vigilante logic of the stand your ground and permanent scary laws. So on February 3rd, my son was shot in the head 4 times in the Florida. The first 2 shots weren't fatal. The first one grazed him, and the second one hit him up under the lip. The last 2 were administered after my son was incapacitated and fell to the ground. There were 2 shots about a half an inch apart, right behind the ear. Execution stopped. After that, the executioner then disposed of my son's phone, deleted all messages related to my son and his phone, called his cousin, his sister, and his father, who happened to be a recently retired police officer in that county, of Baker County, Florida. You know what I'm talking about 60 miles west of Jacksonville. He did all that prior to calling 911. When the officers arrived, the responding officers, who happened to be subordinates or previous subordinates of his father, the first thing out of the executioner's mouth was, "This was a practical joke from 2 weeks ago gone bad." This was a practical joke from 2 weeks ago gone bad. So they had an 18 plus month investigation. The executioner, because of standing ground, provided no statements to police. He didn't cooperate with police. They had to break into his phone using technology because he refused to give them the password. Despite all this and all the forensic evidence that FDLE gathered, the state attorney chose to charge Gordon Frazier, the execution of my son, with tampering with evidence. So he served 9 months of a 1-year sentence in a county jail where he used to be the nurse. And during that time, they made him a trustee also in that county jail. So, with all that, disappearing the phone, reading the messages, stating the officer was a practical joke gone bad, not to mention the 2 additional shots, execution style to the back when he was incapacitated there. All that to me says intent. That's intent. But the state attorney said, no, we're going to use tampering evidence because of staying your ground. So, just, that's why I say my son's story isn't finished. We've been at this for 5 years. 5 years. They use all kinds of legal devices to delay and postpone the trial. The civil trial was recently postponed from May the 1st now to October 31st. And all these trials are going to take place in what I call Baker County Courthouse. If you're not familiar with Baker County Courthouse, it's in McLean. They're in the hallways of justice that have a mural depicting 3 Klansmen on horses. Oh my God. And we talk about giving justice out here. The mural has some other depictions related to the Klansmen and that type of thing.
I don't want to go that corner.
So this is where I have to go to get justice. Now I have no video, and even with video, we know it's hard.
I don't go that justice.
But I do have I'm pretty sure I have a great civil lawyer. He used to be a former prosecutor. So, but I have to use forensic evidence, medical evidence, blood spatters, experts. We have to do depositions, so we're still trying to raise money.
Of course.
So we do have a GoFundMe account called #JusticeForDJ, and we appreciate your support on that. But at the same time, that's my focus, is trying to get justice for my son in a civil trial. And I shouldn't have to, it shouldn't be a problem, but you still have to worry about the state attorney taking this case and providing homicide charges after we finish the civil trial, because the evidence is out there. So that's my focus, but I do recognize the importance of eliminating the standing ground and permitless carry law. Combining that is irresponsible. It shows no accountability, as you can see from the standing ground that was amended in 2017, a few months before my son was killed. It took away all accountability and responsibility. It put the burden of proof on the state, not on the shooter. He doesn't have to say anything. He can be quiet, he doesn't have to cooperate, and he still gets to stand his ground. It's what they call prima facie self-defense, meaning unless you can prove otherwise, which is hard to do if you're not there, that the guy is innocent and he used self-defense. So I consider these laws the standing ground, especially the second part that was amended and the permanently scary Jim Crow laws. These are Jim Crow laws.
Yes, amen.
Although they disproportionately affect people of color,
It don't
we
matter.
see it through enforcement of the laws, we see it through the investigation of the laws, and we see it through the adjudication of the laws.
Don't matter.
That is not fair to people of color.
Sure, exactly. Preach it, brother.
We are a mixed society. This is a mixed society. Races are coming together now. My grandson is half white. So, you know, I want my grandson to be judged on the content of his character, not the color of his skin. So I'm on today to stand upon command action and address this societal issue and be with you, and it's an honor to be with you and be on this advocacy day. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your story with DJ. We are grateful that you're here. Our next speaker is one of our strong allies, Representative Anna Escamani. And has fought alongside us. And she has encouraged us to push through. We can't thank you enough for your support, and here is.
Thank you so much. How are our moms doing today? Good. We are coming together at such heavy but important times. And again, my name is Anna V. Escamani. I am so proud to serve District 42 in the state legislature in the Orlando area, where I was first elected in 2018, flipping a seat from red to blue, running on issues of gun safety. With Pulse nightclub in my district, I wear my ribbons every single day as a sign of solidarity with the 49 angels we lost to gun violence and so many others that we lose every single day in what is a preventable act of violence if we take action. I'm also proud to be this year's sponsor of the assault weapons ban. Because no weapon of mass destruction should be in our streets, and that is the bottom line.
Amen.
But as we gather today, we know that we are up against a hell of a fight. Permanent scary has been being pushed through the process, and this morning, I started my day first with a phone call focused on a family that lost a loved one to gun violence in my district. And then my next meeting was with Jeff Beakley, who is the founder of Mara's Voice, and his daughter was murdered right here in Tallahassee at a yoga studio. And so gun violence, as we heard from the survivors and victims' family members today, impacts each one of us. And so we come together to say not one more.
Woo.
Not one more student lost to gun violence. Not one more temple, church, place of worship terrorized by gun violence. Not one more news alert of a mass shooting in America. And not one more NRA bot politician telling me that he gives me his thoughts and prayers. We honor those no longer with us through action. And I stood before the Judiciary Committee when Permanent Scary was pushing through. I'm not a member of that committee, but I still fucking show up. But I chose two that I felt like were meaningful, common sense, and bipartisan. One focused on suicide prevention. Because we don't talk about it enough. with a firearm. And there are policies that we can do to delay that decision, to help that person before they take their life. And one of those has been a program piloted in other states, which is a voluntary do not sell list. That if I know that I'm experiencing suicidal ideation, I can sign up to a list and say, I should not purchase a gun at this time. I filed an amendment to present that idea to the committee, failed on a party line vote. Then I brought forth an amendment to create a community violence prevention task force. This amendment would have helped to address the violence taking place in our neighborhoods every single day. Violence that is often concentrated in areas of disadvantage. Violence that most often impacts our communities of color, where incarceration has been the solution, not intervention. And so, I brought forth this amendment in good faith to create a task force to help prevent violence in the state, to have multiple stakeholders be a part of that task force. It failed along a party line vote. And not just 24 hours later, we had a shooting in Pine Hills, in Orlando, where a sweet 9-year-old girl was murdered alongside a news reporter.
That's right. I remember that.
That's right.
So don't tell me this isn't a problem. Don't tell me you're pro-life if you think increasing access to guns is the solution. And so I just want to remind each one of us that we should not be weary and we should not feel despair. Because we have the antidote to that, and it is action. And I remember a time, not just 8, 9, 10 years ago, where this type of presence, this type of proactive presence to fight for common sense gun safety didn't exist. We didn't have Moms Commit Action. We didn't have March for Our Lives. We didn't have the Florida Coalition to Prevent Gun and Violence. We didn't have Students Commit Action. And now we do. Because Americans, and especially our mama bears, came up and said, enough is enough. And so, when you are in that Capitol, I want you to understand your personal power in this work. I want you to understand just how important your personal stories are, how important your vote is, how important your voice is. Because we're not just pushing our current lawmakers, we're telling a story to the whole nation of what happens when you have one party control and what happens when you have politicians that are drunk on power. And what happens when you have a governor that is more concerned about their political ambitions than the health and well-being of their states.
Exactly.
So we're sending a message, not to the state capitol, but to the nation, that if you care about our children's future, if you care about safety in your neighborhood, safety at your place of worship, safety at your mall, at your movie theater, at your club, at every point of your life, you care about safety. And if you care about just common sense bipartisan policies like background checks, like task force to address gun violence, or repealing Stand Your Ground, if you just care about decent policy, then you should stand with us. Not just in the legislature, but also in the ballot box.
Amen.
That you made the drive, you made the commute, you put on your red t-shirt, you got out of bed, and you said, not one more. Thank you.
She shows up, right?
Yeah, that's so.
Thank you so much for being
so,
here.
my goodness.
You're just one of the
Woo.
most badass representatives we have. Thank you for representing. Okay, our next speaker came all the way from Miami. From Miami Circle of Brotherhood, which is an organization that's doing meaningful work in mentorship, economic development, mediation, all the things that we know can help interrupt the cycle of violence, gun violence in our community. So please welcome Lyle Grandison.
Hey, I'll tell you.
First of all, I want to say it's an honor to be with each and every last one of you. I have the honor of serving as the executive director of the Circle of Brotherhood. And it just so happens that today's date is the 4th anniversary date where 9 members of our organization went on a 21.5-day hunger strike. Against gun violence and desensitization and around that. And it just so happened that during that hunger strike was when the marriage took place between Moms Demand Action and the Circle of Brotherhood. And we've been working together ever since. And it's no coincidence that all of this is taking place on this day, including you in the seat. And I want to first say this about Mom. See, Mom already, gentlemen, intuitively knew that this was the last stage or battle for civility in this country. And all of you who may be historians and you do research about paradigm shifts that change the world for a destructive way forever, we're sitting at that gate right now. But Mom, you know, I wanted to say something about Mom, and so, I said, let me look up some of the most powerful women's movements that have ever taken place. And I came across this one article, and it talked about these 7 powerful women's movements that were started by Mom. And one of those was Moms Demand Action. Let's just be real that in terms of the reason why partnerships are so valuable and important today, and why your work is so valuable and important, we're all wearing the same moccasins today. We're all wearing the same moccasins. We're not safe anywhere where insane people are making policies and laws or protecting insane policies and laws. We're not safe. And so, partnerships, they do work. I close with these 2 things. First, to each and every last one of you that's here, please don't underestimate your value, your power, your worth, your presence. A lot of times, those of you who got into this particular battle because you were personally touched, it took that personal touch. Those of you that got into this battle because you saw it to be the right thing to do, well, it is the right thing to do. So how valuable are you for seeing that? And so I see the representatives right here now of 10 million people. Now, if you don't see it, that's a you problem, not me problem. I'm telling you what I'm looking at. Because when the conscience of our mothers, of moms, come to those who think they yield in real power, believe it or not, there's an inner sanctum that can be reached. And for those who have lost all sense of being able to be reached, then let the power speak. But your worth and your value as a human being that's not apathetic today. You know we live in a very apathetic world, but it's not you because you're here. To the people in our country who've given up, even though they was a just fight, but you haven't given up. You took that one step further. You showed up. And so your presence here is very, very valuable. So real quick, just pat yourself on the back. You showed up. You showed up. And so about the value of how partnerships work and actually save lives. And I talked about the partnership that we have in the Circle of Brotherhood and the work that we do with community-based violence intervention. We don't pretend like we don't know what the solutions are. Give us the resources so we can do the work that needs to be done. action for taking a stand on making sure the Circle of Brotherhood receive resources. One of only 15 to receive the grant the last cycle, $100,000 from Amazon. Just so you don't think that that's little money, it's what the moms are. It was the glue and the water that allowed us to continue our work. And then a few months after that, we received our first Department of Justice grant.
Yes.
And then a few months after that, we received our first state appropriation grant. And right now, about today, the city of Miami is being jacked up for another $1 million holding up. They work. And so whether we want to appeal to the conscience, or whether we want to appeal to morality, or the power of the vote, there's nothing more powerful than the mind of a made-up mom. Love you, Mom.
Thank you,
Let's go. Let's go.
I would like to introduce Kate Allen from Student Demand Action, who is going to introduce our special guest.
My name is Kate Allen. I'm a volunteer with Students Demand Action and our chapter's president at Florida State University. I'm so excited to be here as we continue to fight to end gun violence in our state and to introduce our next speaker. Shannon Watts is the founder and full-time volunteer with Moms Demand Action, now the nation's largest grassroots group fighting gun violence in America. Moms Demand Action, Students Demand Action, and Every Town for Gun Safety have repeatedly stood in the way of the NRA's priority legislation, passed life-saving gun laws across the country, changed corporate policies, and educated Americans about secure gun storage. Without further ado, Ms. Shannon Watts.
Nothing more powerful than the mind of a made-up mom. I love that. That's a new slogan. So thank you so much for being here today. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge all of the gun violence survivors in the room. Thank you so much for your leadership, for your courage, for your grace. Thank you for being here. It is an honor to fight alongside you. Honestly, you inspire us every single day by turning your pain into purpose, so thank you. It is also wonderful to be back in Florida, to be with all of these Moms Demand Action volunteers in red shirts. You may have heard that this is my last year as the full-time volunteer leader of Moms Demand Action. This is my last advocacy day. So it holds a special place in my heart. And I'm thrilled to be surrounded by so many people I can call friends, like Dave, who is here, but also like my good friend Angela Zavala, a fierce mother, a fierce organizer, a fierce leader in our grassroots army, and you will hear from her next. Look, I know some of you have been in this fight for a long time. I know some of you have joined more recently. I talked to a woman who saw me on MSNBC last month and joined the organization. It doesn't matter when you joined us or why you joined us. We're just so incredibly grateful you're here. Your hard work is seen and it is valuable. You know, I started Moms Demand Action a decade ago. And I was so outraged after 20 children and 6 educators were slaughtered in the sanctity of an American elementary school. And I went online and I thought, okay, you know, there's got to be something like Mothers Against Drunk Driving, but for gun safety. And I couldn't find it. I found some think tanks, mostly run by men. I found some one-off city and state organizations, mostly run by men.
I knew I wanted to be part of a badass army of women. And that's why I've seen get so much done in this country. So I started a Facebook page thinking, oh, we'll just have an online conversation about that. You all turned it into the largest grassroots movement in the country. We are now twice the size of the NRA. Hard, I really do, but I think that we have to remember that it takes a while to show lawmakers a very important and valuable lesson. When you do the right thing, we'll have your back, and when you do the wrong thing, we'll have your job. Some of you are going to have to run for office yourself. As we say, when you close the door on a mom, we will come in the window, and that means your office. So, we have just built this incredible movement in the last decade that's capable of taking down the gun lobby. And let's be clear, the NRA is weaker than they have ever been. They are hemorrhaging political power and money. They are an incredibly weak organization, and we are much stronger. We have to keep showing lawmakers that lesson. We have changed the politics completely on this issue. There's been a seismic shift. When I started doing this a decade ago, a quarter of all Democrats in Congress had an A rating from the NRA. Today, not one does. Not one. And they're proud of their Fs now. They're upping. If you go to DC, you'll see they have little pins that say F. And, I know that in Florida, you have made progress. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. You passed the red flag law after the horrific shooting in Parkland. In Washington, you helped us by having rallies and making phone calls. Because of all of you, we passed the first federal legislation on gun safety in a generation in this country, 26 years. That will save thousands and thousands of lives. So we are also, as I mentioned, shifting the culture around volunteers. We elected 140 of our own Moms Demand Action and Students Demand Action and gun violence survivors to office. But the work continues, right? 10 years is just the beginning. I think what we've done in a decade is miraculous. But we have so much more to do, right? It sometimes takes decades and decades to get everything you want to get done on an issue. As long as gun violence is the #1 killer among children and teens in this country, we can't afford to sit on the sidelines. People always say to me, what wakes you up every day? Why do you get up and do this work every single day of the week as a full-time volunteer? What other choice do we have?
No.
If we lose our children, if we lose our loved ones, we have nothing left to lose. We have to act. So, as we speak, right now, the Florida Senate is holding hearings on permitless carry, as you all know. And I want to be really clear about this. And I want to make sure we all agree, and I think we do in this room, but we need our lawmakers to understand, permitless carry does not make anyone safer. Having more guns in more places with no questions and no training will lead to more gun violence and more tragedy. Tragedy that is senseless and preventable. Governor DeSantis says he supports law enforcement. Do you think Governor DeSantis supports law enforcement?
No.
He is forcing this issue even though law enforcement is begging him not to. They say it will make it more difficult and more dangerous to do their jobs. And the data shows that it increases gun violence and gun death in the states where it is passed. When everyone is armed, normal, everyday confrontations turn into violence and into death.
Amen.
A random confrontation at a bar or a disagreement over a car accident, right? It all has the chance to turn deadly. But once again, Governor DeSantis, of course, is choosing extremism over the public safety of his constituents. He wants his name in the papers. He wants donations to his potential presidential campaign. He doesn't care who is able to walk with a gun sign into your kid's school, or a sporting event, or a hospital, or a church. All he cares about is his public and political future.
You want to see the White House?
That's right. He's going to go as far right as he can to court the gun extremist base of Donald Trump. And the
boy.
thing too, he knows how hellish this vision is. He won't let guns at his own events. Governor DeSantis wants permitless carry for thee, but not for me.
That's right.
And we are here to call out that callous double standard. We have to hold Governor DeSantis and any lawmaker that aligns with the gun lobby accountable. We have to speak for the majority of Floridians who want gun safety after so much tragedy in this state. But as I said before, there is nothing more formidable than an army of angry moms and students and survivors and dads and on and on and on. We are unstoppable when we show up in our red shirts. I hope you've seen all the pictures of moms and action volunteers looking at their lawmakers right now for hours and hours and hours, and that is democracy. That is how you force change in this country. That is how we pass hundreds of good gun laws in this country. It is how we stop the NRA's agenda 90% of the time, every year in state houses across the country. It's how we flipped legislatures in Michigan and Minnesota and Massachusetts and Maryland and Pennsylvania and on and on and on. You will do it here too. I promise you will. I know it can be frustrating. Sometimes incrementalism is a dirty word in this country. I wish the system was set up for overnight change. I would have been gardening for the last 9 years. It is not. But it is incrementalism that leads to revolutions. And you are doing that hard work. So thank you. Thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for never giving up. Thank you for showing up. It has been the honor of a lifetime to be in this fight with you. With that, I will turn it over to Angela. Thank you.
Get everybody in there. There you go. I can see it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before I get started, I just want you, I know we've said it a lot, but there's not too much. Not too many times we can just take a moment and thank our survivors and think about the folks we've lost in this fight. We see you, we see you, we see you. Thank you so much for showing up and doing this work. So I am so thrilled to be here with you today. Thank you for inviting me here. My name is Angela Zavala, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Everytown for Gun Safety Moms in Action's Movement Building Wing. It's so energizing to be with hundreds of you in your red shirts here ready to roll up your sleeves and meet with your lawmakers today. We've got hundreds of moms and students that came from all across the state here today. Thank you to the students. Thank you so much. As a mom myself, I'm really hopeful that I have my kids following in your footsteps and showing up in ways that you're showing up and you should have to do. So thank you all for showing up like this.
Exactly.
And I'm so proud also to be joined by our partners like Brother Lyle from Circle of Brotherhood. Can we give another round?
Lindsay and Maxie wrap us up. I wanted to share a little bit of good news. I feel like we always get bad news. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas bill, it was challenged by the NRA. That case went up to the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit literally just issued its opinion upholding the law. Argued that it was unconstitutional to require, to raise the age for purchases from 18 to 21. And the 11th Circuit in the holding that law said that kind of law is consistent with our nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation. Indeed, the Supreme Court has already identified that laws imposing conditions and qualifications on the commercial sale of firearms is long-standing and therefore presumptively lawful firearm regulation. So, just
That is amazing news. Thank you. Great way for us to wrap up. Thank you all again for coming. Shannon and Angela, thank you. Your work is, Shannon, the movement you started is not just life-saving, but it's been life-changing for so many of us who have gotten into this work, and we're deeply appreciative. I'm gonna cry. Thank you all again for coming. Thank you to our survivors, for our community partners, our students. We love you. We're so grateful for you. Our movement is in the most capable hands. Annie and Jamie and all of our Tallahassee moms for putting all this together. Our wonderful guardian angel, Lindsay, our organizing manager, legislator. I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but thank you all so much. A couple housekeeping quick things. Please exit through the rear. Down the steps, we're going to walk to the Capitol for our photograph. Half and half. So some of you go that way, some of you go this way. And we're going to walk to the Capitol, take a photograph on the steps. Wait. If you do not have a meeting set up with a legislator, please find Linda back downstairs at the registration table. She's right there. She'll be at the table downstairs where you signed in, and she'll give you materials to take to drop off at a legislator or Senate offices. Okay, I think that's it. Go get them. Thank you all so much.